Hello, my name is Brian Collins, also known as Circadian Eyes. I just wanted to take you through a bit of the process of writing my most recent song, Homecoming. The song actually started out a bit differently than it ended up. Here is what it sounded like to begin with. So that was the main section that I had written. That was the first thing I wrote for this song. I believe I just put it away at that point. I was done with it. That's kind of what I tend to do. I write a melody and then I usually like it, but then quickly, being a musician, hearing this over and over and over, as you are now, it might become a little boring, so I thought it was a little boring. And I came back to it, and I liked it, but I didn't want to keep it the way it was. So what I tried to do, or what I decided to do, was to sample it. Here is the piano sample, both of those piano samples, into the default sampler in Logic, the EXS24. If you don't know what a sampler does, it's basically taking a sample of audio and you're mapping it to a keyboard. And in this case, the song is in the key of A, so I mapped it to the A key, which, let me see, A1. So that's a slower one. So that's the original right here. But as you can see, I can play this sample basically like a piano. I can play it here. Really ear-piercing, as we will find out. Up high or down low. In this case, I went down low. This is essentially what it actually sounds like, with some automation. So that is the beginning of the song. Just a little bit about the magic of EQ. I will play you what it sounds like now versus what it originally sounded like. And also, if you look down here, you'll see the automation, which basically I automated the volume, so it just started at 0 and it's slowly rising just to make it a natural rise. Anyways, the EQ, so I'm going to bypass it now. And then back to unbypass. So as you can see, it's very muddy sounding. So this is the what I like to call the magic of subtractive EQ. Just taking out anything that doesn't sound good. Again, I'm gonna bypass it. So it's basically just I want only the good frequencies. From there, I believe the next thing I did while I was doing this, which was actually like the first time I really had really fooled around with slowing things down in a sampler. I outside of my attic studio, it was a rainy day, and cars were driving by. I do live on a fairly busy road, and I kind of thought it sounded nice with what I was doing, so I decided to take my little field recording mic. I just held it up to my window and just recorded it for about like 3 minutes. So that was just another white noise-esque sound that I like the sound of. It didn't actually end up being. I have the whole sample here in the song, but it's only really going until the guitar sounds start coming in, and then I fade it out. Just because once they come in, there's enough white noise. Anyways, after that, I believe I just wrote this little piano, which I wanted to create something that was there and it sounded nice, but wasn't necessarily memorable or catchy or anything like that, because that's not what my purpose was for this song. So here it is. So that's fairly straightforward circadian eyes esque, piano sound. Just threw a little Valhalla reverb on it and some EQ to roll off the high frequencies. I then threw that exact sample, this whole thing, into the sampler once again and slowed it down. Have it one panned to the left and one to the right. And here's what that sounds like. So that's very slow and very low. It's probably mostly inaudible in the track unless you're really listening for it, but I just wanted some extra noise in there. Next, I have Yamaha Portasound VSS 30, and the thing is an absolute beast. Basically, it gives you this awesome lo-fi sound. You just hold up this little built-in microphone to your speaker and you sample pretty much anything, and you can loop it and reverse it and add some distortion to it, and it just comes up with these amazing sounds no matter like what you put in. I used it quite a bit on Songs for Ghosts. You might recognize it if you did listen to that album. And here's what I came up with for this song using that sampler. So it's just that repeated over and over and over again. I find it very soothing, I guess. So I love the VSS 30. I might end up doing just a whole separate video just on that because there's a lot to talk about that. Next came the string part. I wrote this as a quartet, yes, cello, viola, and two violins. I am not a professional composer, if you will, so I don't know technically how to actually officially write for a string quartet, but this is what I came up with, and I think it sounds decent. Not much processing on these, just a Valhalla Shimmer reverb, which is an amazing plugin. I can just play you one of the instruments. I will play you just this violin and show you what this Valhalla is doing. I'm going to bypass it. Next came the guitar part. This is probably my favorite part of the song. It is the part that you hear towards the end that just keeps getting louder and louder and louder. I'm going to play you all of them at once. This is probably going to be much louder than everything we've heard so far, so I apologize for your ears. Here we go. So there's that. I really love the sound I got out of that. And this is the amazing thing to me about sampling. All of that you just heard came from this. A single guitar note I put into a sampler. I then stacked a bunch of stuff on it. I stacked the Valhalla Shimmer, which is the one from the strings. I ended up putting 2 EQs on there because it's just that harsh. A clip distortion, which is the same one I had put on this ambient sample at the beginning. And that's what gives it that really harsh sound. And a noise gate. Now, what a noise gate does is it takes anything above a certain threshold and it just essentially nullifies it. I will show you what I mean here. So initially, I actually had it just like that. So only the noise gated guitars were coming through, and this is what that sounded like. Which I do think is pretty cool, but I can see why anyone actually listening to the song would find that a little distracting. So what I ended up doing was I doubled each of the guitars. For each of the ones that I had a noise gate on, I doubled it with one without a noise gate and made it just slightly quieter than the noise gated. So it kind of gives this struggling guitar sound. And here's the low guitars together. So it's a little less distracting, but it still sounds like the guitar struggling to get through. So I was listening to the song. One thing I like to do is I just close my eyes because I tend to look too much at these meters down here and other things going on in the recording. When I'm writing, I close my eyes and I listen to the song and I try and see what else the song needs. For a while, it was ending around this section without these really, I call them ultra high guitars in it. And that's already pretty ear-piercing, if you will. But my ears, I guess, wanted more, so I decided I'm going to go 1 octave higher with it. So towards the end of the song, that's what your ears are enduring. I'm sorry. I really love the idea of something so simple and beautiful turning into this just nasty thing. So I really enjoy the end of this song. Alright, so here is a little experiment. I have not actually tried this, so we're going to get a live reaction right here. What I've done is taken all of the effects that are on the guitar. So it's basically going back to just this sample. And I just want to show you the difference. I hope there's a difference. I imagine there's going to be a major difference. This is what I'm playing on my keyboard with the samples without any effects. So yeah, it sounds like Mario on drugs. um, yeah, I did not try to play this in perfect time. Clearly, I wanted it to be messy. The distortion and the reverb kind of made it nice and messy sounding. So yeah, that is the magic of both sampling and distortion, reverb, EQ. Just something I love about the age we live in, where we can just take such a simple sound like this guitar sound and get the ending of Homecoming out of it. I wanted some kind of vocal element to this. What I ended up doing was recording myself just singing a long A note. And I'm not a trained vocalist by any means, but this is what I did. So I wanted to sing as long as I possibly could, and as you can tell, it does waver quite a bit at the end there. Like I said, I am definitely not a trained vocalist. But anyways, I wasn't going to necessarily use that sample. What I ended up doing was putting it in the sampler once again, and the bass sound that you hear throughout the song, which is just a long, droning bass sound, is actually that note slowed down. Here it is. And the wavering in my voice gives it kind of a natural up and down motion, which is nice. I didn't even EQ that at all. I loved just the warmth of the. It sounds, like an old Gregorian chant or something. My music geek side coming out there. So yes, I do sing in this song. That is actually my voice. It sounds like a weird synth, but it's my voice. And then the very last thing, I wanted some kind of percussive element, but not rhythmic. And what I ended up doing was using this. So that's going throughout the length of this song. It does. It's interesting. I was going through my old recordings looking for something I could use because I was feeling unoriginal. I couldn't come up with anything at the moment. And I stumbled upon this sample. And it's reminiscent of a baby crying. But what it actually is my cat. So yes, after I had gotten my field recording mic, I was playing around with it, and I decided to record my cat, and now she's in a song. That's really it for the making of Homecoming. Maybe you've noticed this. I don't know how to say this. That was the working title. I usually come up with something to identify the song with. Um, and I was considering actually calling it I don't know how to say this. Because sometimes you get a feeling that you just don't know how to say. Um, but I came up with Homecoming while just listening to the end of the song once again, with like my eyes closed and all that, just trying to get a feel for what it actually made me feel. And it just the ending kind of sounded like coming home to me, so that's what I ended up calling the song. So I guess that is it. Nothing else to discuss. Thank you for listening to me ramble on about this. I have never had to discuss my music in such length before, so I appreciate it. Thank you always for listening, and maybe I'll do this again sometime. Thanks.